Could be, but whatever. That's not something for me to say. But the inner ear does look the same. He has the same face. He just, it's. I'm not saying I'm absolutely sure, but I'm saying it's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. And I can't get any really good photographs of Bill Hicks because they all seem to be grainy. But I have a couple of them that are sort of good, but Yeah,
it's remarkable how few photographs there are of Bill Hicks out there.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I can't say 100% it is, but I can say there's definitely a possibility when it comes to if you're looking at it the scientific point of view and you look at the ear that way. And his face, and the sound of his voice, he has the same mannerisms and he does talk about the same topics.
Well, there's something else that I had pointed out, which was, as far as those two go, according to his bio, Alex Jones is in his early 30s.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and how can he be Kevin Booth, who claims to be like childhood friends with, when Kevin Booth is about the same age as Bill Hicks would be?
Yeah. So when a female lies about her age, okay, that's one thing. But when a male lies about it, and you're like, well, what are you doing? Why are you lying about that? That's a legitimate question. Why are you lying about your age?
Yeah, look, I'll buy like 38 for Alex Jones, but I'm not buying like 31, 32 or whatever, his bio says he is. No.
And they're from the same area, Hicks and Alex Jones are from Austin, right? Both of them.
And they're both
from Dallas, but yeah.
Both of their names are associated with Waco and very strongly.
Yeah, they were both there. Yeah, I saw the footage of Bill Hicks there with what's his name, Booth. Yeah.
And actually, there's a broadcast I've seen of a young Alex Jones, the young Alex Jones, pro-Christian, pro-Israel, and it didn't look like Alex Jones at all.
Really, I haven't seen that one, but yeah, his earlier days, he does look a lot like him. There's no way around that. He looks a lot like him.
And the thing is, they're both like huge figures in this truth movement. When we started, when you first started watching, at least I'm not sure if you went through this experience, but I'm sure a lot of my audience went through this. When you first start getting to this truth information, the post 911. Post-Matrix BS that was spoon-fed to us, you will come across those names right at the very beginning. Both of them, Bill Hicks and Alex Jones, and they are sacrosanct.
Yeah, I can't take that away from him. You got to give him credit. He is probably the first voice that people do hear, but and then a lot of people move on to other things. But yeah, so that's one thing. But my whole point about if you're going to be in the truth movement and you can't tell the truth about yourself, then I sort of have a problem with that. I'm an open book. You can find me. You can look me up on the internet. And I'm pretty easy to find, unfortunately. But, I am. So, and I don't fear any questions. So people can ask me anything they want. But Alex and some of the other people you can't ask questions about because they don't want to talk about it. Well, that's up to them. That's their personal point of view. I find that hard to.
I will say this in fairness. I do try to keep myself somewhat low key on that because.
Sure.
There are a lot of freaks out there, and I'm not worried about the government. Okay, I'm not worried about some like government assassin coming and black bagging me or something like that. Not at all. That's
Hollywood. That's Hollywood again.
Yeah. What I do actually sometimes fret about is one of these crazy like truthers I've pissed off or something like that.
Yeah, I've had a stalker.
Those are the guys I worry about. So certain things I prefer to just, look, I'm already a very hated personality in this business. So there are people that might want to kill me just because they believe I have a receptionist named Lucifer. That must prove something to them,
Yeah, I know there are some crazy people out there, and I did have a stalker at one point. So yeah, but the problem that I have is, since I've been 15, I've been doing this stuff with the books, and I was pretty public when those books were around. So unfortunately, it's tough to get stuff off the internet once it's on there. So I'm just pretty much stuck with it.
Oh yeah, well that's something. That's why they have all these things. It's one of the things I'm planning to talk about at some point. I don't know if you remember like the MySpace days, and even before the MySpace days. What would they do especially when you were young, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're so externally focused. They send out all these surveys, these 50 questions, etc., about all sorts of things. And, you're a kid and you're just like, okay, I'll fill this out. And it was basically a huge mass collection of information about, people and their details to build profiles on people, like you're saying.
Sure.
Your computer profile, what software you have loaded on it, tells them a lot about who you are. You can move across the world and get your standard set of software that you always use, and they're like, oh, hey, look.
Yep, there he is again. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I tell people. If you don't want other people to know about it, don't do it on a computer. And that works for and against you because you see these people doing the same thing. You see the family members putting their Facebook pages up there, or Dave Weiss, and you see all the people. Like I think I found about 40 people in his Facebook friends list that are in the news doing fake events. And when you see that and you look at all these people and you go, wait a second, they're on this one guy's Facebook friends list, and this guy happens to work for Disney. You go, whoa, what? Wait a second. So the coincidence, again, is now thrown out the window because now you got to look at this as being something to really pay attention to. And yeah, they're just as dumb as anybody else. There's a bunch of actors putting their portfolio shots up there, and there you go. Got plenty of shots to work with ears.
Let me ask you about another person in this truth movement, which I know you've been looking at, and that would be Bill Cooper and Jordan Maxwell. What do you have to say about that?
From Arizona, yep. And actually, Bill Cooper interviewed Jordan Maxwell on the radio just before he died, or was murdered, so they say. And you look at the faces, and they are a match, except for Maxwell had a nose job. And he also has, his earlobes are stretched because he's put on weight, and you can tell that his skin, the elasticity is gone because he's getting older, but it's the same inner ear, it's the same face. He's wearing even the same glasses except for the nose piece is just a little bit different because he had a nose job. But when you look at that and then you listen to the voices, it's the same person. It's the same person. And you can't really, here's the other thing. Sometimes when they go on air, they change their voice a little bit, make it a little bit more professional, unlike me who really doesn't care. But but if you listen to some of the stuff that Cooper did that wasn't his radio show, some that was shot outside, he talks normal. And then when you listen to Maxwell, it's him. Absolutely him. You can't tell me that he's not.
So that one you were like, what, 90, 100%?
100%, yeah, because then you look at the fact that what happens to his books and videos of, Will Cooper's, they go through the roof. Then he can sell those forever and make tons of money on them. And the thing about him, it's sort of personal with me because, oops, talk about it.
All right, save that. You've got a rant coming, save it for the other side of the break. All right, we'll be right back, folks. All right, little religious persuasion there. We are back. And did you have a chance to do any compulsory analysis of the image of Karl Rove next to Patrick the Starfish?
It is him. I swear it's him.
If not, he's a doppelganger. At least
they're
right. The same actor.
Yeah.
Back to Bill Cooper and Jordan Maxwell. I know a lot of people are going to be very upset with that and think it's preposterous, right? Because Bill Cooper is another one of these names. Again, it's interesting. You've got Alex Jones paired up with Bill Hicks, right? Bill Hicks, he's dead. He's beyond question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right? And he's a hero to a lot of people in this movement. They're constantly quoting him and referencing him. And I brought that up once before on a show. And the same thing with Bill Cooper, right? People are like, well, according to Bill Cooper. I'm like, well, yeah, according to Bill Cooper, 10 years ago, yes, this is the way it was, but Bill Cooper's research hasn't grown.
Yeah, well, Bill Cooper, when I was doing the Kennedy assassination stuff, and, I'm no longer friends with Grodin, so if anybody says, well, he's friends with Grodin and Grodin's a hack, well, Grodin did some bad things that I totally distanced myself from him when he did the O.J. civil trial, and I told him that I wouldn't do the third book if he did that, and he decided to, and he owes lots of bad things with him. Anyway, but to get back to the point, when we were doing High Treason, just before we released that book, Bill Cooper was talking about his theories about JFK and being shot with an electric gun by the driver. And, of course, we got a copy of that version, and we debunked it and, of course, proved that he was wrong. And he also said some things about Oswald being in the doorway, which was Billy Lovelady that was in the doorway. So he made some statements that were proven to be false, and he never really could live that down because everybody would bring that up, the electric gun thing in the limousine. I mean, come on. And Connolly and Nellie, John and Nellie are sitting there right in between the president and the driver, and plus the driver's hands don't leave the steering wheel. So, there's these things that he couldn't live down, and it was always brought up. So I would say, is there a reason for him to do what he did? Possibly. There's motive. But then there's, you look at the event that happened. He says they say he was murdered by a sheriff. And, when you look at what they say on Wikipedia about it, they say there's a lot of questions and they still don't know what happened really. Well, right there it starts to, you start to raise flags and you're looking into it deeper. And then, of course, the science says that it is him. When you look at it, it's his face and it's his ears and it's his voice. So,
And he was shot. Where was he shot?
in front of his house.
Which was located where?
Arizona, right? Yeah, exactly. Another place. I mean, Arizona. What is up with Arizona? But yeah, people ask me that all the time. Why am I so on Arizona? Well, Arizona happens to be basically a bigger film and video mecca than Hollywood because they shot all those old westerns there. It's been around forever, but it's cheaper to shoot productions there because of taxes and licenses and things like that. So people don't shoot in LA in California because it's too expensive. So the next big hub is Arizona, Tucson, and Phoenix. And plus you have a lot of industry professionals that live there and a lot of actors, huge amount of actors. So, it would make sense that that's the same place that all the news media have their hubs and their major, their uplinks. So, and then, you see the connection between that and Raytheon as being the number one, employer of that area. And you see a lot of the connections start to make sense.
Well, if you watch the plot of Superman 3, they were going to create a huge, massive earthquake, which, by the way, still hasn't happened, despite all the predictions, and cause this earthquake that would make California slide off into the sea. And then Arizona would be the new California.
Really? I didn't realize that. Yeah, that's funny. Wow.
Maybe they're planning ahead, moving the studios for when the Lex Luthor succeeds.
Art imitating life or life imitating art. Who knows? Yeah.
Well, I have been saying for quite a while that the truth movement is full of actors.
Yeah. I don't know about actors, but they are not adding up to what they're supposed to be, and they're just how can I put it? I don't have proof that this person is that person or this person's that person, but you can see that what they're doing is not effective in getting the message out in a way that we need it to be gotten out. And so they're failing at what they're supposed to be doing.
And by actors, I don't mean necessarily they're all a bunch of, there are people, I believe there are agents in it that were set there from the very beginning because it all very conveniently fell in our lap after we were programmed by all the movies that came out in the 90s to be receptive to them.
Yes, I can see that.
And I believe, there are a few key people that are agents. Let's say, I've looked at a lot of the stuff that Jordan Maxwell has said about Hollywood, and I said, you know what? He made that up. It's false. It's another, rabbit hole, a dead end that leads to nowhere. Mm-hmm. And I've disproven a lot of his claims on this show. Not, sit here and stroke my chest or whatever. Keep it clean. But there are a lot of people that are basically just fools, useful fools, and they're just repeating basically all the information they regurgitated early on.
Yes.
And I think that's probably the largest part of the people, just basically unpaid volunteers towards this cause.
Yes, and they don't have the common sense enough to stop for a second and think about what they're repeating, and is it something that's verifiable? And that's why I try to stay away from testimonies and what people say, because people lie. So you really can't. And people, they repeat stuff like you said, and you get as many views as you do channels. CNN or Fox News, whatever pick. That's what this person's point of view is, or the other person's point of view is. So they don't think for themselves. And, so I go, okay, what's the solid evidence? Where can we break this thing down and find where we can have a solid foundation to work from? And photographs are definitely a key. But, that doesn't help when it comes to things in the past. So, I don't know. And people's intentions, you have to look at their actions. And when people attack me, I say, well, how do I benefit from this? Because I've turned down book deals, I've turned down video deals, and I'm not selling anything. So if you don't like what I say, well, change the channel because you didn't lose anything except for your time. And, and they start to see that, and I don't, I'm not out here to make money on this thing. I do put at the end of some of my videos, if you do like what you see, please donate. That's helpful. But you see where the money's going. It goes right to making videos that are, talking about things that nobody else is talking about. So, they can attack if they want.
One of the points I have raised is, there are also a lot of charlatans in this, where I'm sure you've heard this, this prediction after prediction about certain events that were supposed to take place already, from the North American Union Highway or whatever, the superhighway, to all sorts of other things that none of them have come true, by the way.
Yeah.
And you have people, and even small-time players in this, making prediction after prediction, and then after the prediction fails to materialize, they just go on and nobody's calling anybody out on it. Are we so conditioned to be in that receptive state? We're like, okay, well, I'm going to tune in next week and see what happens on next week's episode.
They just overlook it, or they excuse it. Yeah, but a lot of those people that they create those things, they make up those predictions in order to discredit other people that are so willing to follow them. So people are repeating that message over and over and over again, and all of a sudden it doesn't come true. So then they look like fools, and they've of course now just split